Holy hell! I cannot believe we finally got that working. Hello, everyone. I am so sorry for the delay. I'm just going to check and make sure that we are, in fact, live really fast. All right, let's see.
Tibor is
Yep,
busy picking up the glass from the broken Macallan
I
mug.
think it was Tibor that fixed the live stream for me, guys. I think he used his Tibor powers and psychically sent his energy to assist me. Maeghan, where did your video go? Are you hiding yourself?
Oops. There we go. Do you see me? Hold on. Okay,
All
there.
right, there we go. Welcome, one and all. Can you hear me in the chat, everyone? I apologize again for the difficulties, but we got it working. That's all that really matters.
Mhm.
Faithful slave here, Maeghan. How are you tonight? You look lovely.
Oh, why, thank you. I am wonderful just drinking another tea.
Another tea. How many cups is that in like the last 20 minutes?
Hey, it's decaf, okay? I switched to decaf like you suggested, so cut me some.
Yeah, that was a good suggestion. You need your sleep. Sleep is very important. But I digress. We have a lot to get through tonight. Some very interesting things happened today. So there's a channel called Andrew on the Edge with Andrew Gold, I think is what it's called. He's a really cool dude. He's got something like somewhere around 5,000 subscribers. He's got a great channel. He did an interview with Lloydy Boy, and it was really fair. In fact, I think that maybe he was a little too soft on Lloyd at first, but some interesting things kind of took place, and now not so he's not so kind to Lloyd anymore. The one thing I wanted to show everybody before we get started is some of the tweets, essentially, that have transpired here. So this is the guy, Andrew Gold, on the Edge with Andrew Gold. And he decided after interviewing Lloyd that it was only fair to also interview Kim Silvio. And that was largely due to the community, the extra community, asking for her to hear the other side of the story. And he's like, you know what? I'm a journalist. Why not? That's what you do. Well, Lloyd did not like this idea, and in fact, he told Mr. Andrew not to talk to Kim and threatened him and all kinds of other things, and it kind of rubbed Andrew the wrong way. And so he said, "You know what? I'm absolutely going to interview Kim now." And so this is kind of what was going on. He says, Kim coming on soon for the live stream. He decided to do a second live stream after the interview with Lloyd. Lloyd says, having made a video about one man's traumatizing experience of online bullying, you now help facilitate it. So he was not very happy. And then let's see the other thing. What's the other thing? The other one was this. He tweeted this out. Andrew did. I'll release a video tomorrow to explain tonight's 360 turnaround with Lloyd Evans. I've blocked him as I don't like being threatened. I hate being dragged into this kind of thing. It's not very professional. Thank you, XJWs and casual observers, for your support. So, yeah, some stuff went down, and now they're not
What the
tight
heck did
anymore.
Lloyd do?
Oh gosh, he threatened him. We'll get into that. It's gonna take us a minute because there's a lot to go through.
So,
Um,
just so everyone's aware, I did not listen to the podcast or watch any videos because I wanted to come into this without having previously seen anything.
I'm excited to get your live reaction to this. All right, and I'm gonna try and share my screen for you. That's the other part of this that I hope works. Oh my gosh, I hope this goes smoothly. Um, what's funny is that he changed the thumbnail and the title of the interview with Lloyd because he was so upset by the way Lloyd treated him after the interview. Uh,
Well,
At first, it was about like online trolls bullying him, and then he changed it to Lloyd refuses to apologize.
Oh my
It's
God, that's
it's
awesome.
so it's so wild. It's this is some wild stuff, like
This is
guys.
the best thing ever.
Megan, can you see my screen?
I can.
Wonderful. All right, we're doing okay. We're gonna get through this. All right, so let's just play the first point. And I don't want to cover the whole thing because it's long-winded. I'm going to
Yeah, yeah.
try and just skip around to the points that I thought were particularly lol worthy.
Okay.
All right, so okay, this is interesting. He does this little rant about how he actually was surprised by how supportive Kim Silvio and producer Bob was when he first told them about the sex workers and everything. And kind of listen to this real quick and let me know if you can hear it, Megan.
Yeah, I can hear it.
I was actually kind of surprised at how supportive they were. I was thinking, wow, I'm really, you know, making myself vulnerable here and showing the very worst side of myself, albeit to people I work with closely who are my friends. But, they could potentially take this really badly
Yeah.
and, say, I want nothing more to do with you. You've unveiled yourself to be an undesirable person to work with, so we're calling it quits. But they didn't do that.
All right, is it just me or did he kind of just validate that reaction?
Yeah, well,
Isn't it kind of like he's saying, in all fairness, they could have easily immediately out the gate been like, "You are a terrible person. I don't want to
well, like
associate with you
he
anymore."
pretty much just, yeah, like he pretty much says like this is the worst part of myself, and they could very easily, dislike this. And then he like says it, but what's weird about it is he's kind of like smiling and like almost self-congratulating his own like cleverness when he says it. Like he's like, oh, they could very easily have said, oh, F you. And it's like, dude, why are you like saying it like this?
Yeah, absolutely. And like the funny part to me is that um that is a reasonable reaction, but the funny part is that he is going to turn around and repeatedly say that he's done absolutely nothing wrong. It's wild. Like just stay tuned, okay? Let's skip ahead to because later we know that Kim Silvio and producer Bob did think about it and realized that it was really kind of messed up and, kind of changed their mind about the whole thing. But all right, we're going to go to, let's see. Oh, this one was, whew, okay.
Stuff was said about me and my private life and my work that just isn't true. And that, again, it's hard enough dealing with the reality of it, but to have to actually explain to people, no, actually this didn't happen, and no, that didn't happen, it's so difficult to navigate through that.
So we should set the record straight then. And I would say I think you are on the right podcast to talk about this, because I mean, for me, it's all about no moralizing, no thinking that I wouldn't have done the same as other people in their situations. I've had pedophiles on here, I've had psychopath murderers. So
I love that your face did that just now. Did you think what I was thinking? Like he says, you're definitely on the right podcast. I've had
Yeah, like,
pedophiles and murderers on here. I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe that's
Wow.
unfair. But
I just honestly can't even believe what I'm hearing right now.
all right. Let's keep going cuz like, maybe I made a correlation there. It was almost
No,
as if he was
no,
saying,
it's
"Yeah, this
really
crazy
funny.
stuff that you've done, I'm not going to moralize it because I
Yeah,
have pedophiles on here. I have murderers and you're just going to
yeah,
fit in real great here."
right. That's exactly what he just said.
All
That's
right.
hilarious.
And I apologize if that's a little childish, but that is what it sounded like to me. Okay. Let's
That's what
keep
he said.
going.
and I find people often get most annoyed by things that are not the same as murder. The things that they can imagine that they might have done but didn't. I feel that that's what winds people up a lot. At the same time, we need to get to what happened, and obviously, allegations are, and I think you've admitted to this, that it wasn't just extramarital affairs. It was prostitution. Is that right?
Pause it
So
for a
it,
second.
You got the giggles.
No, because did you see Lloyd's face when it went back to his face after the guy's going on and on about like not moralizing people, because I've had all these guys on my podcast, and Lloyd's face is just like, it's like his eyes were looking around like he was trying to think of like, how can I come back from this now?
That is a really rough setup. I mean, if I was served that softball, I would not swing. But
Yeah.
yeah, all right. Let's move on. Let's go to the next point. All right, 11. Let's go to the 11 mark.
conversation took place in December. So yeah, that it was with sex workers that I was unfaithful with my wife. Yeah.
And look, a lot of people are unfaithful with their wives, with sex workers.
See, I wanted to bring this up because it kind of bothers me that, I mean, what do you think? Is that kind of like almost normalizing cheating on your wife with prostitutes a little bit? I mean, like, no disrespect to this guy. Like, all right, before we get into it, I do want to say that I kind of almost feel like his interview style is to be like very accepting, to see what the person is going to divulge by feeling comfortable. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, like I do think that he's trying to be super accepting. Um, is there a way for you to check the live stream? I'm hoping that we're not echoing when I talk here, but
No,
I'm
no, no.
kind of
I can hear you in my headset, and you're not echoing, and everybody seems to be having a good time so far. But
anyway, yeah, so I think that is his style for sure, but like it is annoying because he's like, oh yeah, lots of people cheat on their wives with sex workers, and it's like, okay, yeah, sure, I guess you could say lots of people, but like let's put this, if we could calculate this, I would venture to guess that of people that cheat on their wives, probably very few of them are cheating with sex workers.
yeah, that's not an everyday occurrence. When it does
No,
happen, it's pretty sensational, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, let's not make this just like an everyday thing that everybody does.
It's
Oh,
not,
it's fine. It's
no.
fine. All right. But then again, we have a tendency to do this pesky moralizing thing that's just
Yeah,
taboo right now. I don't. Did you hear how he said that? Like, I'm not one to moralize. I've never heard that before. It's almost like they're saying, I'm not one to discuss what's good and what's bad, or if things are right and wrong, whatever.
he's saying judge, but he's like saying moralize instead.
Okay,
Like,
that's
yeah,
fine. All right, let's keep going because there's a lot to get through.
I know.
And I think the issue that a lot of the community have, of course, is that you've been a leading advocate against sort of sex trafficking and that kind of thing, and that you had sort of a moral duty, I suppose, as the leader and the face of the Jehovah's Witnesses, to take care in that aspect, especially because, of course, many sex workers in, well, I believe it was Croatia and Thailand, would have been sex trafficked.
Well, I'm not a leader. I'm a guy who talks about a religion. So, I think this is where kind of words matter, because I've never ever. In fact, I think I've even put out a video.
I want to point out that he mentioned the correlation between sex trafficking and sex workers and child sex abuse there. And there's going to be a pattern throughout this interview where Lloyd just completely dismisses it. But I want to continue though.
In the early days, saying you shouldn't have leaders. I'm not a leader. I'm not a moral authority. I'm a guy who knows something about this particular religion, and I want to share my knowledge. So I've never presented myself as perfect. I've never presented myself as any kind of moral authority, and I've certainly never presented myself as a leader. Yes, you're right. I am an advocate against the cover-up of child sexual abuse. So if people want to draw lines between the cover-up of child sexual abuse, which is where children get abused, and the perpetrators aren't held accountable or get to evade justice, and sex workers, then they can do that if they like. But
You got any thoughts on that, Maeghan?
He's trying to say that we are comparing the sex workers to the men that rape children. And, what we're really doing is saying that he is the morally bankrupt individual who would cheat on his wife and ruin his little family with his little daughters because he can't control himself and wants to go sleep with sex workers. That's
Yeah.
what we're saying. And he's using money donated to him by people who want him to do his advocacy against the perpetrators of this.
Mm-hmm.
He's using their money to fund him doing those disgusting things.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying. And he's misrepresenting everybody's argument to
Yes.
say that we're somehow saying it's the sex workers that we don't like and we're so morally disgusted by the sex workers themselves. That's not what we're morally disgusted by.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to go be a sex worker. And obviously not many women are going to do that. The point is, I'm not judging the sex worker as much as I'm judging Lloyd. Like, Lloyd is the one that's disgusting.
Right, and he did something even worse there, I think, by shifting the argument to what the Jehovah's Witnesses and the governing body does.
Yeah.
Instead of like actually addressing the fact that, yeah, a lot of these prostitutes that you visit are likely sex trafficked women and are likely abused as children, he completely deflects away from that and says, well, no, if you want to draw a correlation to me visiting a prostitute and the cult that is routinely covering up child abuse, well, you can if you want to. Just completely deflected the entire point there. That these women, unfortunately, oftentimes are sex trafficked, especially in Thailand, and they are often abused as children sexually.
Like most of them have those experiences.
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right. I'm going to play a little bit more of this, but we might skip ahead.
In my view, there's a huge, huge difference. And so what's happened is, and I hate to kind of sound like all woe is me, because I'm very mindful of the fact that we're having this conversation in the context of a country at the moment that's being blown to pieces. And
so he now takes this opportunity to bring up Ukraine.
You're so mindful. Oh, yes, you're so mindful of that. You were also so mindful when you were thinking of Thailand in your first video and saying, yeah, they have such huge COVID restrictions, so it was so difficult to get there. But I managed and got there anyway because they had huge COVID restrictions, as they should. Mr. so worried about getting or giving COVID to some, hooker in Thailand, but not worried about bringing home an STD to his wife. Like,
it is interesting that he's playing like the moral high ground with things like that, like COVID and Ukraine, while at the same time being addicted to prostitutes in heavily sex trafficked areas.
What kind of mindfuck is that? Like, really? Like, excuse my language, but come on, man. Like, God.
For real
such
though.
A joke. This is why I didn't even want to watch the video, because I'm getting all
okay, all right. We'll try and keep it light. All right, let's just move on.
But like legit though. Like, anyway, let's go.
Children being bombed and that kind of thing.
I'm
over his private life, even though he hasn't actually done anything wrong.
He then goes on to talk about this is all his private life and how he hasn't done anything wrong.
Bullying an individual by shaming him over his private life, even though he hasn't actually done anything wrong. You're just trying to draw lines and pin something on him that he's not responsible for.
Again, takes no responsibility for anything that he's ever done in this situation.
Nobody is blaming Lloyd for, like, he's trying to say that, I don't even know what he's trying to say, to be honest. I think he's just like trying to sound clever and smart, like, like he always does, and he's just like blah 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 blah.
It's like pasta, yeah.
Yeah, he puts you into a fucking like loop, try to figure out if he's saying what it sounds like he's saying. He's trying to claim that we're blaming him for like child sex abuse that happens
Like
within
he is the culprit, and that's not the
yeah.
argument.
And it's like what? Like who said
What?
that? Because that was never what anybody was upset about. I'm not mad at Lloyd for that.
Right.
I'm not even really mad at Lloyd. I just think he's a raging narcissist, and
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
so
and there's more evidence of that to come, definitely. Just
yeah.
buckle up for a minute.
uh, maybe take issue with is that you're not a leader, and I say that fully aware of my own status as a podcast host. I just did a course for YouTube. It's some like £200 course or whatever, where you learn how to whatever be a good YouTuber, and it's like a reputable one that helps people grow their YouTube subscribers. And it was like every day was a different lesson for 30 days. And it was like day 20, creation story. So what's your creation story? Day 21 was creed. You have to have a creed. Day 22, icons. The next day was rituals. The next day was sacred words. And the next day was non-believers. So this idea of, you have to say that you're.
You weren't getting into a cult, were you? It sounds like you were joining some kind of cult.
This is what I'm getting at. And the last page was leader, how to become a leader. And I've seen your channel, and you do a lot of these things. So do I. So does Sean Atwood, whose channel I go on. We all do them, whether consciously or not. And after years and years of doing them, you are a leader, especially if your channel the vast majority of your subscribers have come in from a very vulnerable position of being in a cult, and might
Mhm.
have that intuition of looking for a leader in that sense. So whether you wanted to or not, I would
Good
say
point.
that you did become a leader, and maybe that gave you some sort of extra responsibility. I don't know.
I think to a degree, I would agree with you. I think that it's like Spider-Man: with great power comes great responsibility.
Ugh.
I think that when you have a platform, you you do have added responsibility, and I think that there's been lots of conversation along those lines when you look at, for example, the Joe Rogan podcast and certain things that have been said
Yeah.
on Joe.
You're not gonna like this. Okay, before we get into the Joe Rogan bit, because I know you're gonna be chomping at the bit for that. I know you, Megan. I know. We gotta address the first thing said there. So this guy kind of went on a little tangent about how, I mean, as a YouTuber who has this massive following, and you don't get a following like that without doing some things that are a little culty. I mean, let's just face it, like you are basically putting out content 3 or 4 times a week, and you are doing your inflections with your voice. You are being charismatic as possible to get people to really enjoy your content and to keep them interested. I mean, that's just a fact. And so he's saying, like, when you get this following, obviously you are a leader, especially if you are the dominant, most followed voice in this community on this topic. Of course you're a leader. And he's just kind of like, he starts to be like, well, I kind of agree with you there, but then he goes off into the tangent about Joe Rogan and how basically Joe Rogan is irresponsible for some of the things that he said. All right, let me play the rest of this clip, and then we can have a mild response, but I don't want to dig into like some crazy COVID tirade that's gonna like just go
Nothing
way
is
in left field.
not gonna be that. I
All right,
already know.
all right, but listen. Let's just listen to this.
Joe Rogan's show that some would argue, in the context of, for example, advice on COVID, are irresponsible. So, but then we're talking about, well, what has this person used his platform to say? What has this person used his profile and his authority to encourage people to do? And again, when I look at, even if you want to say, well, you have a large platform, therefore you have some kind of responsibility, I accept that. But judge me on my words, because I'm not going to be going on my YouTube channel telling people to drink horse dewormer or telling people.
Did you hear that? I know you did. I see your face. You're not a happy camper right now. Um,
I just can't believe this man. He's trying to compare himself. So first he tried to compare himself to Spider-Man.
he's very spider-like. Come on.
I
I bet he
mean,
could stick to walls after a
if
session
you
in
mean,
Thailand.
if you mean creepy looking, then yes, he's very
W-
spider-like. Um, but then he tries to compare himself to Joe Rogan, saying like, "Listen, you might be upset with what Rogan says on COVID, but look at what his platform is about," and then blah 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 blah. And it's like, dude, you're not even like a smidgen as epic as Rogan, and you're gonna try to diss him due to the COVID stuff with like everybody else, while still trying to like say that you're on the same level as him at the
Yeah.
same time. And it's like,
He
whoa, I
took the
can't.
moral high ground over Joe Rogan, and I'm pretty sure Joe Rogan has never cheated
I
on his
don't think
wife with
Joe
prostitutes
cheated
for
on his
4
wife with
years.
cousins. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't think he's done that.
And I did just want to briefly say that Joe Rogan did not tell anybody to drink horse
Yeah,
dewormer.
no, he did
He
not.
mentioned a drug that has a Nobel Prize in the physiology of medicine, and it's been used on humans widespread for a long time. I've got an article pulled up here. If you
Ivermectin.
want to look more into it, you
Or
should
my book.
definitely look into it. But
It's anyway, I'm not gonna even get into it, but it's on like the NIH's website. Look up studies they're currently doing with ivermectin right now and COVID, just for fun. It's on
yeah,
the NIH's website. Just
yeah,
look into it, okay? This guy is literally repeating fake news stories that came out.
yeah.
Like one of them was in the Rolling Stone, and he's just repeating the propaganda fake news stories and thinking like he's somehow so great because he's believing bullshit. Like clearly, dude, you've taken way too much time looking into Jehovah's Witness stuff to ever live in the real world and look into what's actually going on in the real world. And
I agree. All right.
ugh,
So we've got that out of the way. We don't need to beat
no, I'm
that
done with
horse
that
to
one.
death, pun
I'm done with
intended.
that.
All right. The next timestamp that I have here is on the subject of yeah, well, did you catch there though he said judge me on my words.
Yeah,
Um
his words were pretty bad. And easily, we can judge you on that if you're really asking us to do that. Like, be
his words
careful.
aren't great, but also I think that people's actions actually matter more than their words, right?
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
No, I mean, everyone says all kinds of things that they want people, that they want people want to hear, but it's their actions that count. And
Yeah.
he's an expert in that because he's a raging narcissist. He knows exactly what to say and how to talk his way out of things. But
All right.
he's a slime ball.
Let's keep going.
To do things that are detrimental to their health or well-being. I accept my responsibility in that direction. I just don't think that being a public person means that I'm not entitled to a private life anymore, and that I deserve to have personal things that have nothing are no one's business but that of.
There it is. He did it. I think we should do a shot every time he says none of this is anybody's business and it's his private life. I want to point out that he's literally on an other live stream doing a new interview rehashing the scandal again.
Again, just when it was starting to die down.
Right. People were losing interest. I know that I wasn't ready to do another video about it because I kind of felt like, at this point we're just like beating this thing to death and like
Yeah. Like
whatever. But
I was never gonna talk about Lloyd again, but then there he goes,
yeah,
digging up his own grave again. Like, God, just shut up, Lloyd. Has anyone told him to shut up? Like,
I really
oh,
think that he had a PR team. Like, I think that producer Bob Tibor and Kim Silvio, I think that they were probably telling him when it was a bad idea to go live or to go on interviews or whatever, and kind of kept him a little bit restrained, and now he's just doing whatever he feels like at the moment, and it's not going great for old Lloydy boy.
No, it's not.
All right, let me go on. There's the best stuff we haven't even gotten to, and I apologize for that. There's some real mind-bending stuff here. So sex workers trafficked as children. Yeah, he blows that off at the like 21 mark. So let's go up to this guy.
There has to be at some point where people go, hang on, and they think that you crossed that line. You don't think you did. You must have been aware with the sex workers that a lot of these would have been trafficked as children, and that is sort of goes against something that's very important to you, which is the protection of child sex trafficking and that kind of thing, right?
I've only ever had sex with consenting adults.
That wasn't the question. That wasn't the question. We didn't ask you what the age of these people were, Lloyd. He asked you very specifically, don't you kind of understand that there's a conflict of interest here, that people might think that because you're visiting prostitutes that were likely sex trafficked or children when they were abused first, don't you think that that puts you in a weird spot and they have valid concerns for being upset about that, you being often talking about child sex abuse? And he's just like, I've only had sex with consenting adults.
Which just makes it less believable, because that's what his mind jumped to, was to defend himself of this. And it's like, why would you think that that's what I was saying? Like, that he didn't even say that.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything to do with these women being underage. He just said that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
they're
just brought it up
probably
like out of nowhere. That wasn't
sex
the point at hand at all.
No.
Let's hear what else he says.
I don't mean to, I'm not intending otherwise.
I understand people's concerns about sex trafficking and that kind of thing, but you know, ultimately the bottom line is, are we talking about sex between consenting adults, or are we not talking about sex between consenting adults?
Well, I suppose with prostitution, it's a blurry line with regards to consent and where that, we don't know. That's the truth of it. You couldn't know a Thai prostitute.
Well, I dated a sex worker in Thailand, but this is the thing, that a lot has been said on YouTube where it's not based on anything I've said. And
all right, so I got to stop it right there, because that was a massive bomb that he just dropped. This is the first time anyone has said anything about him dating a sex worker in Thailand. This is like, brand new information coming from old Lloyd.
And it's like he just said it, and then he just keeps going and like kind of doesn't carry on with like how that
train of thought.
Yeah, I dated a sex worker in Thailand, and it's like, what? And I think he was saying that to try to make a point that like he knows more about sex workers than this guy does. And it's like,
well, clearly he does.
Clearly you do, Lloyd. Like, we're not arguing with you there, but like,
no, yeah, totally. But yeah, so he does that, which is weird. I don't know where that came from, and I don't know how that makes all of this better. The fact that when you're in Thailand, supposedly on your mental health break, you didn't pay for a prostitute, you dated one. Actually, that kind of makes it worse, and I'm going to show you why. Well, by the way, this is the
he said he didn't want a relationship with anyone outside of his wife.
Exactly.
So what's he doing dating a sex worker?
Exactly.
It was bad enough that you were having sex with a sex worker, but now you're admitting to dating one, and then still trying to claim that you didn't want to have a relationship outside your marriage, you just wanted sex. It's like, you just blew your cover again, Lloyd. Like,
I actually have the clip for you. I mean, you're not going to be able to see it because you have that YouTube channel open, but I'm going to play it for the viewers. This is the clip where he says flat out that he didn't want a relationship outside of his marriage. He never had one. He just paid for sex outside of marriage.
So, because things were less than ideal in my marriage, I went outside my marriage. Who with is, again, none of this is anyone's business, but there were no affairs. There were no because I haven't really wanted a relationship with anyone else. I haven't looked for one, but I have looked for sex.
All right, so he says there weren't any fairs. I haven't wanted one. Basically, he says all I wanted was sex outside of his marriage. Which, if what he's saying in this interview is true about him dating someone in Thailand while he was on his mental break, then that was a lie. He has been having emotional affairs outside of his marriage as well. So which is it, Lloyd? I think like we need to know, and your little floundering back and forth when he asked you that direct question really just makes you again look like a lying egomaniac. Yeah. All right. What's the next one? Private life, sex workers, dated sex worker in Thailand. Cancel culture, do wrong things. Oh yeah, this is good. He he then goes on to talk about cancel culture. Are you excited for that?
Yes.
All right, blah 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 blah. Let's hear it.
We're holding an individual accountable. We've decided that this person should no longer exist as an activist.
Sounds like cancel culture.
I actually have fairly nuanced views about cancel culture. I think that I prefer the word consequence culture. I think that when you do wrong things, there should be consequences.
This is some mental gymnastics right here. What he's going to do is defend the idea of cancel culture and consequence culture, and that's something that's needed in society while also saying people need to leave him alone.
Yeah, I know. I already know based on this setup that he just gave us. Like, oh my God. Just go
It's
ahead.
it's quite remarkable.
But
All
you,
right.
but you personally, and I'm not saying you are, but you don't think you did anything wrong. That's the issue.
I think I did do something wrong. I think that I was unfaithful to my wife, and I think that I had sex with consenting adults who.
So earlier he said he's done nothing wrong. In this, he has conceded he's done something wrong, which is just the infidelity bit with his wife. And that's all. There's nothing else to consider. Nothing at all. No conflict of interest. No illegal activity, even though a lot of these places where he was having prostitutes, it was illegal to hire prostitutes.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to deflect and minimize throughout this entire video. I will play a little bit more because I don't know what else he says here.
Were not my wife, and that's what I did wrong. But that's an issue between me and my wife, which by the
And all of the internet because you keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Can't stress that enough, guys. I wouldn't be doing this if he wasn't doing what he's doing.
His poor wife. Like, she must. I mean, if she's still with him, then. Wow.
I also feel terrible about this head scratcher of a situation, but we don't know all the details. Maybe she is biding her time and setting things up and trying to get away from this.
People would help you, girly, and you are a very pretty lady. You'd find someone much better than this jackass. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the bar is pretty low, but I agree. I think that she would do just fine without old Lloyd, but all right, let's keep going.
The way has been so much harder to navigate and so much harder to deal with all of the defamation and all of the bullying and all of the, basically the witch hunt that's been going on with Twitter has made it so much harder to navigate those deeply difficult and challenging personal issues that I'm having with my wife. So yes, I have made mistakes, but nowhere near on the level that people are trying to make out. And I just think it's wrong. I think bullying is wrong. I've never handled bullies very well. It's kind of the reason why I do my activism against Jehovah's Witnesses, because they, in my mind, are bullies.
So he's very passionately against bullies. Maeghan.
Yeah, you know, that's really hard to believe considering he is like the biggest bully in the XJW community.
Yeah, fun fact, everyone who's ever worked with him that I know of has decided to part ways with him on bad terms. Now, I mean, besides Tibor, he's got Tibor still. He edits his videos. But producer Bob, Kim Silvio, Mark Cora, I mean, there's a laundry list of people. A lot of the people that he interviewed, even, or had just on his channel for a brief moment. You talk to him now, they're like, I hate that I was on his channel.
Yeah,
He is a
I don't know.
narcissist.
I
Yeah.
don't know a single XJW. Like, and I know a lot of XJWs. I know a lot locally and all over the place. And all of the ones that have had any dealings with Lloyd are just like, yeah, this guy is a piece of crap. So,
All right. And
The
here we go.
prostitution and stuff, given your status, it's that you won't at all back down and say, I don't think it's as bad as some people say, but it is bad in some respects. I think some people were hoping there'd be some apology in that sense.
I think lots of people have been wanting apologies. I just absolutely maintain that I, again, hate to have to stress it again, but I have only ever in my 42 years had sex with consenting adults. And that's the end of the
thank you for
matter.
bringing that up.
And although I'm sure lots of people are disappointed to hear that I am a flawed individual and that I have been unfaithful to my wife, I'm sure that that comes as a huge disappointment, especially in the context of a community that, you know, has basically, in many cases, grown up in a culture of sexual repression where all of these things are incredibly taboo. I can understand why lots of people feel very disappointed, even to the point where they may feel like I owe them personally an apology. But I take apologies very seriously. It's actually those who.
All right, before we finish this line of thought from Lloyd, there's something that I just caught just now that he just said. He said that a lot of people want an apology basically because we're sexually repressed and we
Yeah,
found what he did morally like wrong because we were
yeah,
sexually repressed.
that's what he just said. Yeah.
Yeah. He says, I understand it, that in this community, a lot of people were sexually repressed, and so
Like,
likely they
he's trying to
found
say that we're
issue with
judging
me
him
being,
harshly.
having prostitutes behind my wife's back. Like, we're such prudes, Maeghan. We're such
Yeah,
prudes. Why
we're
would
so
we want an apology for that?
yeah, we're so sexually repressed prudes. Like, how dare we judge him harshly? We're only doing so because we grew up in this environment of sexual repression. Otherwise, we would just be accepting of him cheating on his wife with hookers like everyone else in the world, even though literally two other YouTubers with hundreds of thousands of subscribers made videos on it and we're like, yeah, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, completely outside of the Jehovah's Witness, landscape. People are everybody's shocked at this because it's a scandal. It's not something that we're just making a big deal out of for nothing.
No.
And he goes on to say some stuff too.
Who know me well know that I actually apologize quite readily.
No, no, you don't, Lloyd. Please, please don't make me spit out my beer right now. You do not.
Oh
Holy
my
crap!
God, he
He
just
like
said he
just bold
apologizes
faced
regularly.
said that. Anyone who knows me, including everyone who doesn't talk to me anymore because I would not apologize, will tell you that I offer apologies readily. Can you believe this stream happened? Like, I can't. I really can't believe that this interview took place, quite honestly.
Me neither.
All right, but let's let him finish.
And I personally feel like if just about anyone can turn up and receive an apology from me, then it weakens, in my view, the currency of the apology to the one person I really do need to apologize to, which is my wife.
Look at your face right now.
I just Dude, like you are such a prick. Like after all this stuff he says and the fact that he won't shut up about all this, he just keeps dragging his poor wife through the mud. And then he's like, it just weakens the apology toward the person that I really should be apologizing to, my
Does
wife.
that
And
make
it's
sense,
like,
by the way? Because I haven't been able to figure out how that worked. Like, so if he apologized to his wife, that makes, or no, I'm sorry, if he apologizes to the XJW community for using
yeah,
donations
yeah.
to buy prostitutes,
It cheapens his apology to his wife somehow.
I would like to know how. Like, do you have any thoughts on that? How does that work?
I mean, that's funny that somebody like Lloyd, who's like a full-blown atheist, would first accuse, of people going on a witch hunt for him because like if he was back in the days of witch hunts, he'd be like the one with the pitchfork throwing it at the witch. And like
Either.
that after that, later on, he's saying that somehow if I apologize, I take apologizing seriously. See, if I apologize to them, then it cheapens the apology to my wife. Like he
Right.
now believes somehow in like karma, like this
Okay, okay,
guy.
you know what? Hold on. I think I know what he was getting at. It just occurred to me. So I had a phone call with Tom, JW Fairytale earlier, and he said that okay, I think what he's trying to say is that if he just throws around apologies willy-nilly, it cheapens the value of the apology. But he just got through saying that he offers up, anyone who knows him knows that he apologizes all the time.
Like he just contradicts himself like every sentence that comes out of his mouth further contradicts one that he's said before. Like
Yeah, this guy is like 100% fluff. Like he uses his voice, his tonality, and his inflections, and his charisma, and his like
yeah,
deep voice to
yeah,
just like say anything.
yeah.
And people just nod their heads because, well, he's got a British accent. He must be pretty smart. Am I wrong? Like, nothing he says
It's
is
like
making any sense. All right, let's.
you insulted Southern Americans, honey.
No, I am Southern American. I want people
I
to
know.
know I am born and raised Southern, so trust me, I'm right there
There's
with you. I drink PBR and I wear flannel occasionally, so
You
Leonard
just have
Skinner,
to
let's
use your
go.
accent. I could have done a Canadian accent for you.
Do it.
Let's try. Let's go try. What should I say?
Say, say these XJWs don't know what they're talking about.
These XJWs don't know what they're talking about. I
So
don't
they
know.
have. Is there like a Southern country slang in Canada that sounds like
No,
that?
I just can't fucking do it if I'm thinking about it. It's just like it just doesn't work.
All right,
You'll
it was a solid
come
effort.
back
I'm gonna let you
and
I'm gonna let you like
you
recoup and try that one again later. All right, let's keep going. 28 weakens his apology. Oh, now he's going to basically claim that everyone's being racist.
Oh my God.
I'm
What?
not kidding. I am not kidding. Just bear with me. All right, let's go.
Of consent and the history of with prostitution in Thailand, and I don't know too much about Croatia. You can never know. And again, I don't intend to moralize.
Well, the only thing I've ever said about sex workers was regarding before going to Thailand. Thailand, this is again, and if you think about it, there's a sort of
All right, before he gets into the racist bit, he just said that he's trying to make it seem like he didn't visit sex workers in Thailand. But I'll remind you that earlier in the stream, he said he dated a sex worker in Thailand. I mean, I can go back if you guys want to, but
No,
you can play it back yourself later if you don't believe me. He literally just said that in the beginning of the interview, and now he's like downplaying that prostitution happened in Thailand. But okay, let's get back to the racist thing.
I don't want to say kind of racism about it, but to suggest that this is all that can be said about Thailand, this is the last word on Thailand, and that's not to minimize that there aren't huge problems with sex trafficking in Thailand, but to suggest that when you go to Thailand, oh well, it must be because of this, it must be because of sex trafficking. Well, what you're doing then is you're in a way, being incredibly condescending about an entire country.
No, Lloyd. It has nothing to do with the country or any stereotypes. It has to do with the fact that you are an admitted addict to prostitutes. You
And
are
you went to
addicted to
country.
prostitutes. You said that I don't know if I would need to visit them more than every 2 months. But you might.
Yes.
You are a prostitute addict, okay? So if you go to a place like Thailand, that unfortunately it's true that it's known for their sex trafficking and their sex tourism, especially the part of Thailand that you went to, which was
Yeah.
Phuket or
Yeah.
or whatever the place was, right? That area is notorious. I mean, you go there in the evening and they are lining the bars, the streets, the beaches. That is a well-established fact, stereotype or not. It's not racist to figure out why you went there, Lloyd.
No, that's not racist at all. I mean, okay, if that makes us racist, then Lloyd is a motherfucker.
All right. Oh crap. Where did my oh.
Not actually a hooker fucker, because that's what he actually is, but yeah.
Right. All right. So, let's go on to all right. I've never spoken about it. Yeah. Let's go to 3115.
Okay, so that didn't happen.
I've never spoken about it.
It was in Croatia.
It was in other countries, in Croatia and other countries, before I went to Thailand, that I was unfaithful. Actually, when I went to Thailand, my wife and I were separated.
All of that floundering and lying. That was all clearly lies. He
Mhm.
just again stated that he did not engage with prostitutes in Thailand, that he was there for the scuba diving. But literally in the beginning of this podcast, and I don't even think he remembers saying it, but he said that he dated a prostitute, a sex worker in Thailand. Which, all
Well,
right, so are we mincing words here? Are you telling me that when you say you dated one that you didn't actually pay her? Because let's be honest, you didn't go there for the scuba diving, take off your shirt, and one of these women come up to you and say, I'm in love with you, let's go out on a date. This, no, 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 totally. I just want to get to know you better. I have no expectations of being paid. Let's just go have a fun evening out. By the way, I'm a prostitute. No, like these women absolutely were expecting to get paid for any interaction that he had with them. Let's be real here.
and if he didn't pay them, then he should be the one being sued right now.
My God. The litigation papers are on their way to those poor sex workers who didn't get paid. Imagine that. Imagine that you do this every night. You tell this guy, "Hey, I'm a prostitute." And you hang out with him all night. He buys you dinner, and then at the end of the evening he goes, "Well, thank you for the lovely date." What?
Like, well, seriously, now I'm really understanding those pictures that were circulating with that girl that looked like she was like cringing so hard.
Yeah. That was revealed via
That was his woman that he
Diana,
was dating.
his wife.
What, that picture?
Yeah. So she had talked to Kim Silvio and was venting to her about it, and that's how Kim Silvio got the picture of this young girl, women. And yeah, it was from his Thailand trip that was totally just a mental health break, and he was there for the scuba diving. Um,
But
yeah.
was he then separated from his wife at that time?
Oh, yeah,
Like
by the way, he did mention that, didn't he? He says here that he was separated from Diana at the time.
but that's not
No,
what anyone else said before or himself. How come he didn't
exactly. That
have
has never been stated prior to just now. He is trying
so
so hard to make it seem like he's done absolutely nothing wrong. No, they weren't separated. They
no.
were having arguments, sure. There was a
He went to
discussion about,
Thailand to see if he could live without them, and he dated a hooker.
yeah,
And now he's trying to say we were separated, even though that's not what he said in his first live stream.
exactly. Now you could say that maybe their relationship was on the rocks for sure because you just found out about this stuff.
Mhm.
But I think that if you're trying to preserve the relationship, and there's been no mention prior of them actually being separated at this time, that you wouldn't immediately run off to Thailand and start dating a sex worker.
No,
All right. That was,
no,
yeah, that was a wow moment for me, for
that
sure.
was crazy.
Oh my goodness. He cries victim again in a little bit.
Okay.
Um,
So,
Spare me.
but this is exactly what I mean.
maybe I'll skip past
People
it.
just kind of run away with these narratives, and they forget that there's a real person at the bottom of all of
The
this,
real
a real
person.
person with a
A
real
real
private life and
narcissist.
real children.
A private life and children, and you keep talking about it on public platforms and
Yeah,
bringing it up again.
he's the one who brought this on himself again.
Yeah. Yeah, he takes no responsibility. He blames everybody else that now this blemish is on his name. Yeah, I don't think I could listen to any more of him like crying the victim because that really irks me, to be completely honest. Let's move on. Gosh, this is gonna be a long live stream. I'm sorry, Megan. I hope you got more coffee or more tea.
I might have to go make myself some more.
Let's play one more clip and then maybe I'll let you go get
People
more tea.
accountable. When people abuse their position and abuse their platform, and particularly when we're talking about cults that cover up crime and drive people to suicide through shunning and that kind of thing, these individuals and these organizations, we need to be holding them accountable. But that culture of accountability is never an excuse for bullying. It's never an excuse.
I just I just don't understand how he can simultaneously talk about how when you have a position and a platform that you have added responsibility and then just deflect and minimize everything that he's done in the same breath. It's oh, and then he goes on to talk about again how his trust in XJWs is broken. He says that again, which is wild. I'm gonna skip that one. He, I want to get into, he talks about Patreon a little bit. I do want to get into that if we can tonight. I know that it's getting late, but let's.
This was with your producers, that they at the time didn't really take it in, and over the next few weeks it started to sort of contradict their morals, and they thought, I can't keep this quiet, and people are giving their patron money to you and supporting you in the same way they do to me, and maybe they thought they had a duty to get it out there. They think in a different way.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Patreon money because that's actually something I wanted to talk about. But yeah, everyone should be entitled to change their minds. Definitely, I agree with that. So just because I agree with what Andrew's doing one week doesn't mean that a couple of weeks later I don't actually think, hang on, actually what Andrew's doing is really really shitty. I suppose if I did change my mind though, I'd be upfront about it and you'd know about it straight away. And I think if people were to kind of see the things that were being said to me and how supportive they were, like for example over WhatsApp and what have you, right up to the point where we had a disagreement.
I,
You just
this
make me sick
guy
now.
acknowledges that it's okay for people to change their mind and then says that it was wrong of them to not immediately tell him that they didn't like what he did. Those
Yeah,
two statements don't go together.
no, they don't. And did you notice that he didn't say that it was okay for people to change their mind. He said that like he alluded that it was okay for him to change his mind with regards to the guy who's interviewing him. And when he does, he will let him know promptly. That's
It
what
doesn't
he
make.
just said. And ironically, at least he didn't lie about that. He definitely let him know promptly that he
That's
changed.
exactly how it played out. You're right. Oh my God.
Wow. Wow, he's
Okay.
so like he's
The
so
Patriot. Huh?
oh, I just can't even hardly listen to him. Like he's such a narcissist. Listening to him makes me like my insides like I don't know how to describe it.
By the way, he's been given in this interview several chances to give an apology, and he's like, "No, I won't."
Yeah.
And yeah, that's narcissist city for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And then things started to deteriorate. I think they'd be pretty shocked, because the narrative that
All right, let's move
Kim
on to
has
the
been sharing
Patreon
is that
thing.
almost immediately upon
When you make a living, as we both do, and many of us do, from people choosing to give money to us, even though it is for our work, it does complicate things. It muddies the waters. You're absolutely right. It's like, well, which bit of the money in the bank came from Patreon and which from my other projects? Had I not received anything from Patreon, I might still have gone on and done all of those projects. But at the same time, they're thinking, I don't want to give money towards a person whose morals don't fit with mine. And you could call that perhaps what you call maybe consequence culture. And it's something, it's not nice, because you don't feel you did with your morals, you don't think you did anything wrong, but they do. And some of them are believing things that aren't true.
Well, I did, again, let me just stress, I did do something wrong. That I'm not saying I didn't do anything wrong. I did
You
do
did
something wrong.
say you didn't
But
do
it was
anything wrong.
against my wife.
You did say that in the beginning of the video, by the way, but let's go on.
And if anybody started pledging Patreon pledges under the assumption that I don't make any mistakes in my personal life and I am a perfect person, then I think if they'd have asked me to begin with, I would have said, actually, we're probably best not pledging if it's on that basis.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Isn't that great?
Oh my god, this guy is just wow. Like this might beat his first video.
It does. You know what? That's what people in the live chat are saying. They're saying this is actually worse and less comprehensible than his previous videos. Like, and I agree. It's like Lloyd Unleashed. I should have named the video. I should have named the live stream that I did tonight. Lloyd Unleashed. Gosh, this is great stuff. All right, while we're on the Patreon thing, I did want to share this. This is a video from back when, and it's it's him talking about how important his patrons are to all of his work, but also like how he stays afloat. And I'm gonna play that. You're not gonna be able to see it, Megan. I apologize.
Are you able to earn a living just from the channel and everything?
Oh yeah, only because of Patreon.
Oh,
I'd be messed up. I wouldn't be able to do this as a job if it was purely on Google ad revenue. But Patreon has been a real game changer. That has basically allowed people who value what I'm doing beyond the simple video by video thing. They just see the broader picture and they see someone who's
Yeah, so I wanted to show that clip because in previous statements he has reiterated time and again how Patreon is really crucial to him staying afloat, and it's the reason why he can do what he does. So to suggest somehow that Patreon maybe isn't such a big deal and that's not how he's funding these elaborate vacations across the world to visit sex workers, is just flat out not true. He definitely used donated funds to visit prostitutes, and we're not gonna let him tell us otherwise. I don't think that's the case. Nobody's buying it, Lloyd. All right. Moving on. All right. Perfect person patrons. Issue with sex workers 48. Let's go. Let's go.
a really toxic attitude to be cultivating.
I would just say though that when these people are saying, they're upset about, what you did, and you're saying, yes, I did something wrong to my wife, it was infidelity, and fine. I think we know that what they're saying is, no, it's not that, it's the sex workers. Now, you and I might not think there's morally an issue with sex workers, but they do. So I think that's their issue, isn't it? That's what they want, some sort of apology.
I haven't said there isn't an issue with sex workers. I think
Yes, you have. Time and time again in this interview, he has stated that he's done nothing wrong except for cheat on his wife, which implies that the sex workers thing is okay. And now he's saying that I've never said that the sex worker thing isn't an issue. All right, let's see.
Think that there is definitely a conversation to be had with that.
So there's a conversation to be had about whether or not there's an issue with sex workers and his use of them. That's interesting because he's been shutting down conversation over him visiting sex workers from the very beginning of this.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden there's a conversation that could be had about that. I find that a little interesting.
Well, we've been having that conversation all this time, Lloyd, and you've been sending out litigation letters.
Exactly. If we tried to have that conversation, you sent out paperwork to try and sue people. Maeghan, I gotta say that your audio sounds different now. Did you do something different or?
No, I just muted it and then I unmuted it.
Okay. Do me a favor and call me back because it might clear it up, okay?
Okay.
All right. Yeah. All right. So while she's doing that, let me find the next talking point. Issue with sex workers. Oh yeah, CSA conflict of interest thing. Oh, okay. We're done with Lloyd. Ha! Hallelujah. Guys, we got through. That's all I wanted to show on Lloydy Boyd. Where is that coming from? Does anybody else hear that? Hello, Maeghan. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, you'll be happy to know that we're actually through the interview. Those are all the points that I wanted to make. We have something else that's like really important, so please stick around, guys, because it gets better. After this notorious interview took place, Andrew, Mr. What's his channel again? Ed on the Edge with Andrew Gold decided that he would do a question and answer live stream and he would get Kim Silvio's side of the story, as I mentioned at the onset of this live stream. Because the XJW community really thought that it wasn't fair to just give Lloyd a platform and cry bully, and that there was another side to this that really needed to be told. And the overwhelming response from the community, he said, well, why not? It makes sense. And that's when Lloyd got furious at him and threatened him and everything. So I'm going to play. Maeghan, I apologize. I don't think I'm going to be able to let you be clued in to I won't be able to share my screen for this next bit. But I'll just be really quick and play like just a few things from it. And the viewers will be able to see it if that's okay.
I'll hear it.
You might be able to hear it, actually. I'm not really sure. All right, let's see. And here it is. So I'm just going to point out I'm not going to do a whole lot here, but Kim Silvio did a good job. You need to go check out the Q&A video that he did after the interview. And I'm just going to play like one clip from Kim Silvio, who knocked it out of the park when discussing what the issue really was. All right.
That's where I get a bit frustrated when I speak, and please don't think I'm frustrated with you. But Lloyd is an advocate for child sexual abuse. He's a core participant in the EXA inquiry. He's been on many different media, had many different media opportunities. There's been a whole heap of things that he's been able to do in that role, and he cannot sidestep that. I saw a little bit of sidestepping. I'm not a leader. I'm not this. I'm like, come on, you cannot come back and sidestep at this point. You just can't. And I just really am frustrated with him that he fails to understand the relationship between his work and the statistics relating. So simply say, oh, I didn't sleep with an underage sex worker, or I didn't. How do you know? And I'm not saying you did, but what I'm saying is the optics are really, really bad. And that the chances, if you look at the statistics around sex workers and, you know, sex workers that were child sexual assault victims, that were child trafficked, that are in slavery situations where they have to continue working to pay off debts for their families, or their families are in fear of, you know, I know of cases personally of things like that have happened. So, you know, to just not be able to acknowledge, to simply say black and white, I didn't sleep with anyone under the age of 18 or engage in services of anyone under the age of 18, to me, that just shows a complete lack of understanding of the issues relating to child sexual assault victims and women that are trafficked, men that have been trafficked, boys, girls. I just find it really, it's tone deaf, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Megan, I don't know if you heard any of that, but
I heard it all.
oh, you did? That's amazing. I love that. Cool. Yeah, so it is tone deaf. He will not even acknowledge the conflict of interest. He deflects every time it's brought up, and goes on the offensive, and it's really gross. Here, let me get you back on the screen because I like to see a reaction to this stuff. But she nailed it. You know, he's been a part of a lot of child sex abuse projects in defense of children, and he's worked very closely with child sex abuse victims over the course of his YouTube career. Yeah, Joel, the unwitness over at the Vast Apostate Hour, said something today. He said, you know, in the real world, people who are prostitute addicts don't get to work closely with child sex abuse victims. In the real world, that doesn't happen.
No.
And he's
No.
absolutely right. Had Leah Remini and all these other projects known about this in advance, no way any of it would have happened. Period.
No, it wouldn't have. And Lloyd just wants to casually like dismiss the fact that victims of child sex abuse, you know, many sex workers were victims of child sex abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the correlation between that and also substance abuse and substance use disorders and addictions in general, between child abused women who end up using drugs, and some of them end up getting into prostitution. And if you look at statistics, it's really.
Do you have that book still?
Oh yeah, I do.
I kind of like, if you can, I'm gonna continue with my little rebuttal here, but if you can find that page and just read off the correlation with the drug dependency and abuse and prostitution, I think that's really important because, you know, you went to college, you took a course or two on this sort of thing, and we're not making this up. Like, in the real world, prostitutes often are battling really dark demons, and you know, whether or not you think it's morally reprehensible to use sex workers, whatever, but in his position, it absolutely is. It's a slap in the face of everything that he is supposed to stand for when he goes into these projects and he tries to defend child sex abuse victims.
Yeah, it's really gross.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go up to the next point. By the way, Kim, let me know if you find that bit in the book. But so Kim also highlights the need for other extras witness voices, and I loved that. She talked about Capitan's channel, who's really awesome. And Capitan, I'm sorry, I saw you went to bed earlier. I was going to have him on the show after we got through a bulk of this, but it's really late, and he said, nah, peace out, I'm going to bed. But she gave a shout out to Capitan, which is really awesome. His channel, he's doing good things over there. I wanted to wait, hold on. Oh yeah. This is wild. Some of the stuff that Lloyd said to Andrew when he was thinking about having her on to interview is pretty crazy. Let's go.
Okay.
Did you find it?
I did.
All right.
I'm just gonna read a portion of this because it would be really long to read
Sure.
everything. It says, women who are forced to work in the illicit sex trade are at an increased risk for methamphetamine misuse. At times, perhaps forced use, because of its ability to allow the women to work longer hours. Women who use cocaine or amphetamines are more likely to become the victims of interpersonal sexual violence. 70% of women who use methamphetamine report a history of physical and/or sexual abuse in their lives. This establishes a vicious cycle in which the woman becomes addicted to an amphetamine compound such as methamphetamine, and in many cases is ultimately forced to work in the illicit sex trade to obtain the funds to support her addiction.
There you go. Oftentimes, in university, this is spoken about as fact.
Dependency. One of my college textbooks. I have 4 of them about like this thick, and they all speak of this kind of stuff.
But you know, it's common sense. It's bad that we have to actually,
prove it somehow through a textbook.
It's like, oh, did you know that a lot of sex workers are sex workers because they're addicted to heroin and meth and cocaine and all this other stuff? Oh, no, that doesn't sound right. That sounds like misinformation to me. No, that doesn't happen. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. Let's I want to show some of the stuff that Andrew said about what Lloyd kind of terrorized him when he went to have Kim on his channel.
A YouTube community of 100,000 or more people around you, particularly when it's all based around people who've just left a cult without having to resort to some cult-like aspects. And that's what I said. I said that to him in the video as well. There's, as you say, non-believers. You're pointing out all the non-believers. These are the people who are non-believers. And look, today I have started to feel a little scared of him. I can see how he might be intimidating. I'm not used to, despite the job I've got, I'm not used to confrontation. I don't handle it well. I sort of go a bit quiet and go, oh God. So every time he said to me, no, don't talk to Kim, I was just like, okay, I guess I shouldn't, and even now I can see I've got messages from him on Twitter and I'm scared to look at it. And I see there's a parody of him.
He's scared of Lloyd at this point because of some of the stuff that Lloyd was saying. And he goes on further with that.
In the chat. So every time I see that face pop up, my heart's going up. And I can just wonder being in that when he is. And this is the thing, what people outside of the JWs and what I've been looking into with cults and things like that, that's often everything they have. So it's so hard to leave, isn't it? I mean, so what's happening now?
Yeah. So Lloyd really freaked him out with how adamant Lloyd was that he not speak with Kim. He was like forbidding him to speak with Kim. Wow. And there's the part about, this is the funniest part, guys. I saved the best for last. So 133.25. This is great. Listen to this exchange he had with Lloyd.
Thank you. But the message was that you cover his patronage, because that's a reference to, because Lloyd he gave me £2 or whatever it was, and it was a weird thing to say to me. I guess it was the last possible, I don't know, just like, well, if you do this, I'm going to have to withdraw from Patreon. And it's like,
so Lloyd, I don't know if you caught that, but Lloyd actually was a patron of this guy, Andrew, this Andrew guy.
Yeah.
He threatens that if he has Kim on, he's going to remove his patron. I'm going to play it again because this is like the funniest thing to me. This guy is clearly not hurting for money. No. And Lloyd's last-ditch effort to keep him from getting Kim on was, well, I'll remove my patron from you. I gotta play it again.
I didn't even know that you could give the money thing on this live stream. So a few people. But I have seen it on Lloyd's, but I thought you had to have some special thing. I've been doing these for a while. No one's ever given anyone. So I was the first to say thank you very very much. You really don't have to be doing that. But I appreciate the message, and it's a very, very generous thing as well, Jane. Thank you. But the message was that you cover his patronage, because that's a reference to, because Lloyd he gave me £2 or whatever it was, and it was a weird thing to say to me. I guess it was the last possible, I don't know, just like, well, if you do this, I'm going to have to withdraw from Patreon. And it's like, I'm not a millionaire, but the £2 a month, I'll be all right. That's not. It's a strange. I felt it was a very strange thing to throw at me, and then it was the litigation, which was a bit. That's a bit scarier.
Yeah. And
he also threatened him with litigation. So sorry, Mr. Andrew, you are on the edge, all right. You are now added to the litigation, my friend.
Oh my
so
God.
sorry. I think he's just. I think he's had to add everyone to litigation at this point. It's just. I mean, who's paying for all these legal proceedings that aren't actually happening?
This is so funny. This is so funny.
These fake legal proceedings. Oh, also, I got him because I guess he missed the part where Lloyd said that he dated a sex worker in Thailand. And I was in the comments section. I said, "Hey, man, are we really going to gloss over that point?" And so he brings it up to Kim here.
It's okay to bully and bluster your way through to get what you want. I think, if he had taken responsibility, genuinely taken responsibility, I think the community would have accepted it very differently. And okay, he stuffed up.
There's a question in the comments that I want to ask you about, but I don't know if this happened or not. It's from Faithful Slave, and it was about
What is Kim?
The man in question. Did he say that?
I loved Kim being like, "Oh, faithful slave." I'm not gonna lie, I threw this in because it like flatters my ego quite a bit. I just thought that was funny. All right, but I'm gonna keep going because listen.
He dated in Thailand. Do you know the rest of this? Because if he didn't say it, I don't.
He did say it in your interview. He said in your interview that he dated a sex worker.
I think that went over my head.
Oh no, he did say it. I agree. He did say that he dated a sex worker while he was in Thailand. He said that in your interview. That's the first time I have heard that I had a date with a sex worker. He never told me that. And I've never heard him say it previously to this interview. So,
because then when I later said about what about that, must have gone over my head for a second. Obviously, I'm doing a million things when I'm talking to him. Sometimes I will miss bits. And then later I said to him, and he said, "Oh no, the sex workers was only in Croatia."
Yes, because in Lloyd's mind, I shouldn't speak to Lloyd's mind. The way I perceived it, my perception of that was his compartmentalizing, because he did in a statement subsequent to his live stream, he did suggest that he had engaged sex workers in Thailand. So he can't completely backtrack and say, no, that didn't happen. Because I never alleged that he had seen sex workers in Thailand. That's not an allegation that I ever made. He said it in one of his statements. And so it's my opinion, he can't backtrack on that because then people will.
Yeah, and then in this interview, he says that he dated a prostitute in Thailand, which is just, I don't understand that. I mean, Maeghan, I'm all right. I don't want to go there. I'm just saying that I think that if you're dating a sex worker, you better be damn sure that you're actually dating her and it's not. I mean, I just find it hard to believe that no money was exchanged there. I really do. I'm sorry. I mean, this guy, not that he doesn't have a lot to offer. I mean, look at him. He's a stud. But he showed this young sex worker a good time, and there's nothing more to discuss on that front. We should just drop it, not raise any more questions. Yeah. All right, let's see. I wanted to read some stuff from from the live chat.
Yes, please.
All right, so oh, Kim Sylvia says, and this is her comment that she wants read in all caps. I'm pissed that you guys didn't put out a video last week and you ignored my tweet about it. I did not ignore your tweet, Kim. I retweeted it and I said we just decided to shift our video to tonight because all of this was happening and we definitely wanted to talk about this. This is like
Mhm.
crazy stuff, right, Megan?
Yes, yes.
Right. So I'm sorry, Kim.
Sometimes we're like not feeling it, but like this happened and it was like, okay, dude, we're gonna have to.
Right. I mean, we're gonna try and do like a biweekly thing or whatever, but it's not like a set thing. We're gonna be a little bit more loose, a little bit more casual, and just feel it out. Maybe some nights it doesn't make sense,
But tonight definitely made sense.
It definitely did. Okay, Teddy in the comments says, sex workers don't date. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he says. If they do, their boyfriends are secure as hell. Right?
Mm-hmm.
3 cheers to those guys with their completely intact security. All right, so Dominic Riesland says, 3 times the chins, 3 times the fun. And I'm dead. I'm dead. Kim Sylvia says, I'm not apologizing. I didn't see your retweet. Oh, she's doing a Lloyd. She's not apologizing. She won't. She refuses. Shannon says, also Lloyd lied and tried to imply in this interview that Patreon money did not go to sex work. He did try to lie about that, but we will not allow him to.
No.
Megan, do you have any final thoughts?
Oh my. I
What do
mean,
you think about this whole roller coaster, like start to finish? Was it what you were expecting? Was it worse? Was it not as bad? I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
okay, well, episode number 1 of this with Lloyd's confession,
Lloyd, episode 1.
that was bad. Like that was so bad that I was shocked that he even did it. Like with the revelations of what happened, if I were him, I would be like skulking away, like trying, like hanging my head low in shame and trying to avoid this. But he proceeds to go on a live stream and blab to the world about how hurt he is that his friends have betrayed him. And, you know, God, like that was just so cringy for so many reasons. Let's not rehash that. But then, like, episode 2, like going into litigation and against everybody. And didn't he make another video? I don't even know if I watched
Yeah,
that
he
other.
did a welcome back
Right.
video where he apologized to his wife
Yeah.
on his video, which is
Yeah.
weird because we don't need you to apologize to your wife on your channel. We need you to apologize to the community on your channel.
Yeah.
But he
Like,
refused to apologize to the community because, as he said time and time again, he's done nothing wrong other than what he's done to his wife, and it's no one else's business.
yeah. Yeah. So then that, he's thinking he's making a comeback, and meanwhile he's dropping patrons like flies, like just unbelievable.
I think he's lost over 200.
And I'm really happy about that, to be honest. And I love when people post the pictures and they're like celebrating. It's so funny.
Should we mention the Lloyd did nothing wrong XJW sex cruise?
We
Thailand?
really should. Please, for all of you watching who just love getting, your kicks out of this unbelievable train wreck that never ends, then please go to the Facebook page. What's it called?
Lloyd did nothing wrong. XJW sex cruise to Thailand or something like that. It's a lot. It's wordy, but it's because it's a joke. It's
Yeah.
you know.
It's or Thailand's XJW sex cruise or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is so funny. It is so funny. And anyway, so you'll enjoy it. If you're watching this video, then you'll enjoy it.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we had that group, and I think it's private now. I don't even know if people can find it. It's possible, but the funny thing about the group is there are a couple of people in there who every so often will check his Patreon page, and it's like, oh, he's lost another one. It's like,
It's like a big celebration.
I mean, we do have a laugh at it, but what people need to understand is that if he's not going to realize the correlation between the sex trafficking thing and the child sex abuse and prostitution, and how he is not fit after this has come to light to continue going down that road, if he will not have an ounce of humility about it and step away from those topics like he should, given that he is completely unfit to be anywhere near that subject now, if he can't acknowledge these things, then I think it's fair game. People keep taking shots at him because he's just going to keep getting more bold and keep trying to buddy up with people and do child sex abuse stories and projects. And I don't think it's right.
No, I don't
And
think so.
Yeah.
And like, that all of this, like this whole saga, it's like, dude, I can't believe he's still going on. Like, I am honestly shocked. Like, I was thinking, all right, this is finally coming to an end, this is fizzling out. And then bam, he's
He
back
brought
on.
it back up.
It's like, for fuck's sakes. Like,
seriously,
how
like
are
I
you
feel like
still going?
everyone was pretty much moved on. I mean, I know you and I had talked about it. We're like, I don't think we should talk anymore about the Lloyd thing. Our last video, we were just being positive and interviewing a friend of yours, an XJW, who did really cool film stuff.
Which, by the way, guys, you should really check out if you didn't yet. It's an awesome video.
What was, do you remember his channel again?
It's called XJW Silent No More.
Right. Yeah, check that out. So we did that, and like we were like, we're just gonna try and be more positive and like just avoid the topic because it's kind of fizzling out, and it is what it is.
Yeah, well, and like Lloyd is a narcissist, right? That's abundantly clear at this point. And he's just gonna get like kicks from this no matter how it goes down. So like no matter how it shakes out, even if he's losing so many patrons and so many supporters, like he will still get joy out of just the attention alone, it seems. And so I've made like a promise to myself to never ever watch another fucking Lloyd Evans video. And you know what? Like I haven't. I mean, not that I used to watch him much before all of this, to be fair. Like I stopped watching his channel a long time ago, but the point is, like, I wasn't gonna support him continuously by watching his crap. And it's like we almost should move on from it, but like he just doesn't stop. Like it's impossible to not talk about this when he just serves it on a platter. Like,
Yeah, and when he says things and tries to downplay everything that he's done, and when he says like this gaslighting statements about all of us in the community like we're idiots. No, Lloyd, we know that you're lying. We know that you're full of shit. Don't gaslight us, and maybe we won't be doing live streams about your ass.
Exactly. Like he's very much asking for whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tammy G says Watchtower cries the victim all the time. It's called persecution.
True. Didn't he actually say that he was being persecuted?
Oh yeah, yeah. He said that before. Yeah, he uses a lot of Watchtower speak.
Yeah.
But did you wrap up your thoughts? Did I cut you off?
No, I mean I think that's everything. I can't think of anything else. The ultimate thought is like, how the hell is this still going on? That's the ultimate.
Because he won't shut up about it. It's none of your business. Let me talk about it on another platform because mine wasn't enough.
And still I will tell you to shut up about things that only I am allowed to talk about.
Oh, you know what? That's what it is. It's only his business, but he can talk about it all over the place all he wants. And that must be how his brain works. Like, As
Well, his
long as he is
ratings,
controlling how it's spoken about, it's fine.
yeah, because
But
it's his business, so only I can talk about it. Just the same as if he apologizes to us, it'll negate the apology to his wife. Like the
what
guy's
was
brain
that?
is so ridiculously fucked up. Like there's no explaining it.
Yeah. All right. All right, we got through it. Guys, this was a long one. I know it was a lot of Lloyd for one evening, but I appreciate you sticking with me. The live chat is awesome. I appreciate everybody who tuned in. Oh, Maeghan, your channel is Megs?
Yes, Maeg's.
Go subscribe. I think for a second there, we might have disconnected. My OBS studio is freaking out that this video is so long. But if you didn't catch that, her channel is awesome. It's Megs. She's got her London protest video on there, which I think I'm in, right?
Yes, you're definitely in it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We hung out a lot in London. Of course, you're in it.
Of course. You've got other protests. You crashed a convention, right? On there.
So I crashed a convention. So by crashed, are you speaking of the one in Vancouver where we went in and actually
You went into one, but
I went into one. Unfortunately, I don't have video footage of it, but like I was someone who went into the one in Vancouver. And then I went to a convention in my hometown. Um, and that's where I met Stefan, the guy in the last video. So we were like protesting outside a convention together. So yeah, I've done lots of little things. I don't know if there's videos still on there of Trisha and I talking to people at the carts and whatnot. We used to do that too, but
yeah,
I
and
don't do a lot of videos lately, that's for sure. So
yeah, but like it'd be good to check out what you're all about. Your coming out and waking up story is particularly interesting, and you've been through the ringer with some stuff that's happened to you. And yeah, I think I encourage people to go check it out because I'm sure a lot of people can relate. And it's good to have female voices out there, you know.
thank you.
Of course. Oops. I'm wondering why I can never make my screen big. You know, my screen is always small when we do these things. That's all right.
Yes.
Nobody wants to see me anyway. Uh,
Like,
thank you so much, Megan. And to the viewers, thank you as well. I guess we'll see you the next time either we have something really cool to talk about or the next time Lloyd decides to gaslight the entire XJW community.
yeah.
Good night, everybody.